Hey, Warren Whitlock here with another emerging technology for business and professionals and life. We're going to talk about what's coming up and what is happening right now. Often, I think that the emerging technologies that can benefit you most are here. We just don't know about them, haven't figured out how to use them. Generally ahead. I'm just back from a big conference in the blockchain space, and yeah, the I my one word for the conference was slog. That's why I'm not saying the name of the conference. They're in a slog. Everything is moving along, and the acceptance of cryptocurrency is at an all-time high for those people. For the people who are working on other things than blockchain, all going along, starting to get funded more. There's innovation coming, but it's incremental compared to what we see with, oh no, there's too much information. I can't keep up with it. So while overall that information is going like that, when you get to companies building stuff, they've been doing it for a while, and the announcements were all better, faster, cheaper, and we're making the world a better place. That, and of course, incredible people that I met with. My friend, the singing robot, Des, I'm not saying her name right, but Sophia's sister, who sings in a band, and saw a couple of celebrities there, but they'll remain nameless for this podcast. But fascinating. Who's going to be there? I think the big thing was some people who you thought might be against AI are actually using AI to make music. So fascinating stuff going on. Meanwhile, generally in the world of AI, every day is, oh, here's incredible announcements. It's doing this, it's doing that. But the slog part of it is, yes, the AI we have right now is as bad as it's ever going to be, and the blockchain is as bad as it's ever going to be. Bitcoin is as bad as it's ever going to be. We just finished another book on the monetary system, the history of money, as seen by somebody who ultimately shows where Bitcoin is going to take care of a lot of things. And he's skeptical at which other tokens might go, but the Bitcoin made sense monetarily. And the fact that the 160 currencies we now trade in are all controlled by government except for the crypto. And the vast majority of our transactions are still done using, oh, I'll tell you, the, the, the old way. So yesterday, I did something I almost never do. I went to a Walmart. I buy a lot of stuff from Walmart, but it's all delivered. But I needed something, and I was on my way to a meeting, and so I went in and walked across the hot Las Vegas parking lot into the Walmart, into the back of the Walmart, found the little piece of technology I needed. Somebody had to unlock the glass case and get it for me, and they ring it up, and I say, "Where do I put my phone to pay?" And they go, "We don't do that in Walmart." I was in shock. I went to the front of the store. I asked again to make sure that you don't have any device in this whole store that doesn't take a phone. Of course, my wallet was in the car, and I had walk trade back out, get it, everything. So I got a nice walk in around the store and back out. And for my decrepit body, that was pretty good. But let's get to the real story. Speaking of decrepit body, I fell a couple of years ago, wound up in the hospital, and stayed there 11 days. I'd never stayed in a hospital. I don't recommend it. Turns out it was okay experience medically, but and I'm fine. The thing is, they check on you an awful lot, and a whole lot of different people on different shifts come in, and the overwhelming feeling there was like more wow than what I got out of going to a Walmart and finding out that they had to find some cash to buy something. Well, I used a credit card, but they're not that behind. But and they were surprised that I was even asking whether or not the phone worked with the devices. Anyway, so back to the other story. I'm back in the hospital now, and I see how easy it would be because of another of the Sophia Sisters is called Grace and being built to be a nurse's assistant. And when I first saw Grace and saw the demonstration of what she was able to do to help patients in a hospital, doing the non-medical things, the record keeping, and of course being as up to date as any doctor on current readings of the thousands of papers that come out every day, which is nothing for an AI to keep track of. And so I'm thinking, boy, I could use Grace now. And the first thing I said when I saw Grace was, "Gosh, I wouldn't this work on a tablet?" And sure enough, that's what they have is it's a picture of a robot. It's animated. It talks to you. You don't really need a whole lot of technology in the studies. Just having that presence of a being, if you will, who's there to help and record everything that happens. So obviously, you'd want to be able to turn off the camera with the voice command and make sure the microphone and everything is off. But there's a lot of time when you want everything that happens, the medical part, recorded. So I started telling I think I met over 100 people coming in and looking at me and asking for my name and birthday and, and Medicare forms saying that I wasn't being forced out before I was ready to go, which was hilarious because I was doing everything I could to speed up the process. Just nonsense going on, asking to do what, making sure I wasn't treated poorly at home as an elderly person. And so hilarious to be a basically healthy person and see that all go on. We got to exploring what would happen if that tablet was there. Almost all of the interactions that I had with all the various staff that came and went would have been much quicker. No one but the doctor and maybe nursing staff would be allowed to access and get information out of the tablet. But the physical therapists, the people with the stupid forms, the people that feed you, it would all be recorded. And Grace could give me advice and support in what I'm doing. Hey, when the doctor was here, he said that pain med would come right away. It's been 4 hours. Well, what he wrote on the chart was blah, blah, blah. And I go like, I understand that so many in a 24-hour period is okay, but he didn't say to wait 4 hours. And all of that would have been taken care of. I swear it would have been about half of the time of the people entering my room on each of them was devoted to finding out who I was, scanning one of two barcodes I had on my wrist, and figuring that out. So I've done a lot of research onto what's coming. That's way too much of a story, but hey, I hope you enjoyed it. I sure enjoy telling people about it because I'm an old man and with health concerns. But let's talk about what is coming, or mostly here and so close, you don't have to worry about it. That's what we're all about here. So how can we plan for our life in the future? And the first, of course, is the AI. The diagnosis of an AI is as good or better at things like reading images right now and getting better all the time. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when it's going to be, smarter than your doctor and have all the information ready at the fingertips because don't need to ask whether or not the drug's going to interact with something. The Grace will know. I guess you ask there, but the doctor won't have to probe me with questions like, which blood pressure medication are you on? That's an actual one happened to me last week, getting ready to see the doctor. And, oh, we can't take this health scan of you and put you in a machine unless we find out what kind of high blood pressure medication you're on. Okay, great. And I have to remember how to pronounce those words. It's hilarious because my memory for drug names is fairly bad. So all of that is possible right now, except for the part of is it better at diagnosing? But we don't need it to diagnose. We need it to have all that information and come up with some choices for the doctor, have a conversation with the doctor, all in seconds of, hey, there was this paper that came out yesterday, and put that paper up and let the doctor see it. That sort of thing can be done right now. Grace the robot is available. The company I was advising sold the technology. That company, they're gone, so I haven't been following what's happening in the last few months. But the idea is you'll be seeing the robot version of this soon, and whether or not it becomes screens, I don't know. But someone should be doing that if they're not doing it already. The other thing is AI is so much faster at finding the folding proteins and chemical and things like that. It's done. They've put in what used to take a year of research down to it's just done for every possible protein and chemical combination possible. I'm glad I don't have to actually do any of this because I'm at the edge of my knowledge of how to explain it. But yes, it's there. Every day I'm reading more breakthroughs of drugs that are coming out. And then the testing. We have a test. We broke all sorts of records in getting the RNA type vaccines out for the first time because of COVID. They were working on that, whatever kind of virus that is that COVID is, that's like flus and things like that. They were working on a technology that would adapt quicker and they could program with something new. And that's done. We've had that vaccine. Whether or not you take the vaccine, that's another show. But they don't need 10 years of studies to find out because the AI will tell them. And, a lot of times decisions are made that don't do that. Right now, we have drugs that go off patent, and so they wait to release something new and improved until it's time for the patent. And the stories I've heard about what's going on, even the medical research, all the academic research for that matter, is all controlled by the people that publish it. Obviously, it's publish or perish. And so a whole lot of things don't get studied. I found out with AI speeding up a lot of this research, it's going to be able to tell us. And not only is this drug safe and ethical, but oh, well, ethical would be nice too, but that doesn't work is what I'm trying to say. And they're going to be able to find that out for you because if you put your DNA and medical history into your own personal private AI and have it match up with all the drugs that are out there, it will be able to say whether or not the legal structure is going to be there. We'll wait for that, but it's going to be able to say this drug is going to work on Joe and Sam, but if Warren takes it, it's going to kill him. And there are actually drugs where 90% of the population could benefit and 10 shouldn't ever be prescribed it. And usually what happens is they don't bring that drug to market. Too much risk of it killing people. And then, of course, the ones that do come to market have problems. So that just, wow, that's an episode by itself. But that's what they're doing with technology. And of course, they've got to work out the hard part, which is how could we do this without saying the AI has taken over? The AI that soon is going to be smarter than us and know all of the knowledge. The singularity point is here or coming, and it is when a computer knows more than a person. And so we're pretty well on the way to that one. Then you wait a year, or actually Ray Kurzweil will say 2045, but at some point one computer knows more than the entire human race. It's a fascinating thing to think about. Here's today's homework. Think about what happens when everything you know, everything anybody knows, anything we ever thought of as an idea, every plan we thought of but didn't implement, all our ideas about every TV show made and every TV show was ever pitched, every idea possible, every bit of science that we thought we want to get to in research will be researched. And when we get to that point, what is AI going to do? Some say it's going to take over. I lean on the side of it's going to decide that it doesn't want to bother with us. It'll still perform all the things we ask of it, but mostly it's going to be like at the end of the Her movie where it gets together, all the AIs get together and say, "Let's just leave. We found a new place to go to. We don't need the humans." Of course, at that point, the world will be much improved. So good for that. Let's move on to a couple more. Blockchain. Boy, I saw this in record keeping. A I just went deep on how the blockchain stores a record. The cool thing about Bitcoin is the bit that people think is using too much energy. It's not actually using too much energy because of the way they get it generated, use waste energy, heat things with the computers that are running it. There's a lot of things where it could actually have the effect of Bitcoin on the energy market is point oh some number or maybe 0.1% of the energy is going to Bitcoin. It's a lot compared to a lot of things, but it's nothing compared to big things that use a lot of energy. But the explanation shows, and I won't go into it here, that there's going to be more energy put back into the system for everybody else than it takes, and going to reduce its footprint along with the footprint of a lot of other energy by using this information. And when we get to that, storing stuff is not a problem. And the cool thing about Bitcoin is every transaction that's ever happened on Bitcoin is still at every node, and there's now millions of them. And so you can't, if you go shut it down or a government restricts it, they talked about China passing a law where China was about 70% of mining, and now China's about 50% of mining, even though it's illegal. So it just can't be stopped. And that means that your records of transactions there are safe, but they are permanent. And the way you get rid of something on a blockchain is the access key for the particular record is a private thing that you have, and you don't allow anybody to have that, and then you destroy it or die, and it's gone. And that's how Bitcoin works. Other blockchains allow for a central authority to control it and all sorts of things. But in just the data in over half of what happens in medicine and healthcare right now is the record keeping, and that's over. There's really no reason that every time you go to a new specialist office, you have to start over with every piece of information given to the doctor because you'll have it. How? Not sure. Through a thumbprint, through a password, through sharing. The wonderful thing about that is when I go to see a doctor, my doctor needs to know I have good credit, but he doesn't need my full credit report in a file someplace. He doesn't need access to my credit score every day, just one time. Is this person on a list of do not sell to, do not bill, or the insurance information, how that gets updated? It will be a yes no kind of thing that they'll get through their computers and not know any of your other information. How'd you get that credit score? Likewise, if I'm going to get a loan or say a life insurance policy, those companies need to know something about my medical history. They need a yay or nay from the system with, obviously humans still can make some decisions based on the data, but the data itself, they don't need a deep dive into what happened when Warren was in the hospital. Was he's been hospitalized and is it ongoing? No, okay, we're done. And let's see. I mean, so in other words, it affects everything there. Then we move to the IoT, the medical things. I went and saw a machine I had for my first time, a stress test to find out if my heart was working. I think I passed. I went into a room with a treadmill and they said, "No, come sit here." He said, "Oh, first of all, they put me in a machine that I thought was an MRI. I don't know what it was, but it was the arm moved and it was over my heart and it watched my heart for 5 minutes. And then they took me into the other room to give me stress. And I'm thinking, okay, they're going to put the old guy on a treadmill. And instead, they injected me with something. They told me what it was, but we won't go into that. And then he said, "Do you feel a shortness of breath?" And I'm going like, "Yeah, kind of, but just feel like I, walked in from the Walmart, but hardly noticed." And they said, "Good. So some people it bothers, but that's it. We're putting you through the stress test." And that was over. And then they went and put me on a machine, and I had to lay there for 5 minutes while they looked at my heart. None of this could I tell you anything about 3 days ago. 3 days ago, I thought I was scheduled to go to do something with the electrodes on my chest while I worked a treadmill or climbed steps until I died to the point of exhaustion. I thought that's what they did in these tests. Dumb me, I don't know what they were. I don't know when it changed, but the technology changed that. In the same way, they were injecting something into my blood and assured me that it was safe. And so far, I haven't grown horns, so I think it's working. I haven't turned green. That's just my natural skin color. But we'll be able to wear more devices. I've got an Apple Watch, and it tells me all sorts of things. Because of that, I am wearing a heart monitor, and you can't see it. It's right here, and you can't see it. I can't see it. And I have a glucose monitor to monitor those things. We're just getting started on devices and sensors. Why go and wait to see a doctor when you can put on a hat or stick something on your chest and the doctor can remotely read vital signs and tell you in fact it won't be a doctor, it'll be the AI saying that, and then it'll tell you pass or go see the doctor, or at least have a nurse check it, or they'll be spending more of their time on the conversation than on making sure the paperwork's right and documenting everything, because it'll all be recorded. And that's a good thing. That's not surveillance, because that's private. The nice thing about that example I gave of Grace as the nurse's helper, when the patient checks out, it erases all the private information, starts over with the next patient, keeps all the knowledge it's gained from accessing every medical paper ever written, and all the other updates that are given. And when one learns something, they all learn something. It doesn't need to know my history. It's not like the chat GPT getting accused of scraping the wrong parts of the internet, public internet, and they looked at it. But none of that question will be talked about, because it will be, take care of this person, scan them, tell us if something happens. And so a lot more time to rest and actually get healthier while you're in a hospital, because you'll be able to sleep through the night because the thing will be watching you, and maybe a little bit less checking on seeing whether or not you ate all your food. Because so let's see, and of course there's the robotic surgery. It's practically there. I had surgery while I was in the hospital. The doctor came in, said he had looked at my MRI of my foot, knew right where the infection was, and showed me in a color photo exactly what was getting dug out of the infection, to make sure there wasn't any disease and it wasn't going to spread. And he knew. And when it got done, that's exactly what happened. And thank goodness I have neuropathy and could never feel any of it. So the only time neuropathy came in handy, and he did it perfectly. The rest of the stay in the hospital was a nightmare. But interfacing with him and then the follow ups at his clinic all were fantastic, because he basically knew me, knew what he was doing, and could do what seemed to be next to nothing, I'm sure, for him. I learned what the word debriding meant. That's for another episode. But the robots are going to do that better, and they're going to do it every time. So, how's the future going to be in healthcare? A whole lot better, a whole lot cheaper, because you take out half of the work, and that you just don't need the checking and rechecking of paperwork. And let's face it, when you fill out the 6 pages of paperwork before you can see your dentist, I don't know about dentists, but any kind of doctor, and sometimes more, and they answer all the questions on intake. After you do all of that, that information on paper might get scanned and thrown away, or it might be stuck into a file, how we used to do it, and stay there forever. And no one need to look at it. It's there because if you didn't sign the right consent form and you later sue, they've got a paper saying that you did consent. And all that information is interesting to somebody at some point, but not in the normal what we go through. Assuming the doctor even looks at the paperwork, I've tried writing gibberish on a page. I get away with it. So there you go. Who's your next of kin, Santa Claus? You know, I think I tried that one once, but I've experimented with, and no one's ever called me on it. If there's a page with no writing and it had a yellow highlighter, then I better go back and put something where the yellow highlighter is. They check to make sure you complied, not not doing anything with the information. There's a wealth of information in there. There's certain things that I would love to release and just have known. Not my personal medical stuff, but the kind of things like all this stuff where the government is doing a study to find out whether a senior's been abused. All those kind of things, those statistics mean something if they could see them on aggregate instead of most of it becoming a piece of paper that is never seen again. And so I'm so excited because I plan to stick around for as long as they'll let me and see all this technology to fruition. I think it'll be so good that we'll have 100-year-old marathon runners and people working like they were 50 all the way until they're 150. That's all going to be possible. So the big piece of information I can give you today is if you're not planning on being active and doing something 30, 40, 50, 75 years from now, well, then you got some work to do on your thinking about things. If you want to die, go ahead. If you're in pain and disease, maybe, and then a car may hit you. Even with automated driving, there'll still be humans doing things where 95% of traffic accidents have from. And objects may fall from space and hit you. It's always possible that you're not going to make it all the way, but a lot of us are. And to think work until you're 65 and then nothing is still how a lot of things are framed. Of importance to me because I'm in my late 60s. And in the last few years, I've just noticed every time they refer to the baby boomers are all retiring or the social security system doesn't work because it's going to be lopsided. Yes, there's no way a social security system is going to be able to pay us all based on the workers under 65 when the bulk of workers are over 65. That would be the bulk of active available people. Also, I'd get really bored if I didn't have this to do every day and the other things that I fill my day with. And I enjoy what I get to do. I've been doing it for over 20 years now. And exactly this. Before that, I was an entrepreneur with him. I had employees, brick and mortar office, things like that. But I've been totally remote and just me now for 20 years. I want to slow down a bit about having deadlines and deliverables over time. I want the freedom of that brings, but it's getting there. Almost everything I do, including recording this podcast, could be done from my phone in a hotel room anywhere. And I can go stay someplace, take out the rent and stay a few months, or fly someplace and fly back. It doesn't matter. It all gets done if I disconnect having to be physically present in a meeting. Since that doesn't happen much, my attendance is not required. I go because I want to, and then do whatever work is needed on the event or whatever I volunteer to do. I don't have to go someplace. It's a wonderful way to live, and we're all going to be like that. So if you're not fit and healthy, get that way. I'm working on it. So that a walk into the Walmart does not constitute exercise. I'm working on that one myself. But once fit, stay healthy, take care of yourself, eat well, we'll talk again in another 70 years. Well, I hope we talk before that. But see you soon. Bye.